What is the funniest thing you've ever witnessed right in front of you? I was sitting at some traffic lights a few weeks ago and a guy on a fancy racing bicycle rode up onto the traffic island to wait to cross. Except he forgot he was wearing those shoes which clip into the pedals. So he stopped, balanced for a second, and then just toppled over. At that moment, the light changed to green, so I had to drive off. One of the funniest things I ever saw. Substitute high school chemistry teacher demonstrating reaction between calcium carbide and water. Test for the presence of acetylene with burning splint. Experiment instructions emphasized multiple times that only a single crystal of calcium carbide should be used. Asshole poured the whole bottle into the petri dish and then sent the class nerd to the office when he tried to interrupt the guy. When he actually tested for acetylene, his whole upper body was engulfed in a fireball that shot up, hit the ceiling, and left a black soot ring. The guy was okay, except every hair on his head had been singed off. I worked at Santa's Village, a downmarket amusement park, in the 80s. See Adventureland for an exact replica of the scene. Standing in my carnival game booth, I watched a kid stagger off the spinning teacup ride a good distance away, and then veer dizzily this way and that until he wound up directly in front of my booth, at the very center of my field of vision. He paused a second, puked up everything he ever ate in his entire life, and then staggered out of frame. It was like this perfectly choreographed little movie scene I can still play in my head. Thank you 80s kid. You were, and still are, hilarious. My brother slammed a door on his head because, according to him, my arm speed was greater than my head speed. My university choir went to Finland one year, which was an amazing experience. The day we arrived, my brain was a bit foggy from the jet lag. But I wanted to take advantage of being there. So I went with my friends to explore Helsinki. I was walking down the street talking to one of my friends next to me when I walked straight into a pole. I wasn't hurt at all, just surprised. But as I collected myself, I noticed that the only person who had noticed aside from my friend was this random Finnish dude on the other side of the street who was intensely cracking up from what he had seen. I think the sight of him laughing uproariously at my stupid moment is one of the funniest sights I've ever seen. A very, very icy parking lot, and a bunch of high schoolers rushing to their car. I saw at least 20 people slip and fall that day. I really enjoy watching people fall. My cousin yelling, "Yeah!" like Lil Jon, and the guy in the car next to us responding with, "Okay." Quote, I was riding a bike with my friends and asked this old nice lady in an electric wheelchair if she would race me. She did. Edit. My two-wheeled transportation device was lawfully acquired by myself. Hi brother was riding one of those pocket rocket things. And as he passed he gave me the finger. But then he rammed into a parked car, giving him a broken arm and the car a huge dent. By the way, the car was my parents' car. Good times. Went sledding the other day, and some random dog took a major dump right at the bottom of the hill we were at. My friend screams up to warn everyone, then points it out to let everyone know. One kid comes zooming down the hill, realizes he's in the direct path of the shit pile, tries to stop before he hits it, bails right on top of it, and the smears a little path of it as he's trying to stop tumbling. In a flash he grabbed his sled, then noped the fuck out. I didn't even see him leave. If he had just kept going he would have went right over it and been totally fine. I named him Streaks. Once at college there was an ice spot on the walkway outside our dorm, covered in a light dusting of snow. My friends and I all slipped on our way home. Later, from our common room window we saw others falling. Within half an hour, 11 of us had gathered around the windows with tea and popcorn, watching every single person who walked down that path fall or flail crazily to keep from falling. One time a really tall guy wound up doing a chicken dance for about 7 feet, but managed to stay upright. At the end there was vigorous applause, but not from our room. We rushed outside, turned around, and saw that at least 4 other windows in our dorm had crowds gathered around them. We waved and eventually all gathered on the lawn for an impromptu falling party. My best friend and I are obsessed with ghost hunting, so we naturally went on the ghost tour that is offered in Old Town Albuquerque, NM. We were the only 2 locals, but there were about 7 people from Canada. We get to this haunted window in a building that is now a restaurant. However, we failed to realize we were the only 2 people standing in front of the window, only about a foot away. As we listened to this ghost story, we were staring into this window without realizing the restaurant was still open. And bam, a lady basically runs past the window. We were so scared we were screaming at the top of our lungs. I couldn't move and my best friend grabs me around the waist and tries to run off with me. I'm section 9 and she's 512 inches. It isn't until we finally get ourselves together that we look up and realize we scared one of the Canadian guys so badly he had taken off running and was now a block and a half away. The 3 of us looked really stupid, but it's still one of my favorite memories. In high school chemistry, we used to play the plunger game during homeroom, where we'd toss a plunger in the air for various numbers of rotations and try to have it land stuck to the floor. One day, as the tosses were getting a bit extreme in the high-ceilinged lab, one guy tossed it a bit too high and it landed on top of one of the light fixtures, which was amusing enough in itself. Later in the class, we were back in the lab. The teacher was a bald, red-faced, heavily mustached man and was in the middle of explaining our experiment when the plunger teeters off of the light fixture and plants itself directly atop his head. The combination of the perfect splunk and the sight of him staring up at the lightning rod on top of his head in stunned silence was too much to handle. A couple summers ago I was driving through the city with all the windows down with my cousin. For some reason, I had the most intense, loud sneeze of my life, and a car 4 lanes away going the opposite direction screamed, "Bless you," out of his car as he drove by. Was playing soccer. My buddy and his brother were on opposing team. I was advancing towards their net and my buddy came at me from left, his brother on my right. When they both got close to kick the ball away from me, I stopped the ball. They both missed the ball and kicked each other in the shins. Bodies collided. Heads collided with a loud thunk. The way it all synchronized was so funny I couldn't continue running and just rolled on the floor, laughing. I thought it was over, but then they both got mad at each other and started fist fighting. I was laughing so hard watching it all unfold in front of me, though I'm going to pass out. One of the funniest memories I have. I was sitting at the table with my mom and my 3-year-old niece, and out of nowhere my niece looks at my mom and says, "Everybody's looking at you because you're weird." Defiantly, one of the funniest things I've ever heard. In high school, our tennis team was on a long bus ride to a match. One random moment we were all looking out the window into the window of the car next to us. It had a young boy in the passenger seat and an elderly woman Probably grandna. Driving. The young boy went to turn the radio channel or something, and the woman came forth like a trained assassin and smacked his hand down hard, not even taking her eyes off the road. We all laughed so hard. A lot of these seem like had to be their moments, but I still enjoy reading them. While on a motorcycle trip across half the country, my father and I witnessed the tail end of a possible road rage incident. Me were riding up the highway when one car passed a pickup and didn't think much of it. About 5 minutes later we round a bend and there are both cars parked on the shoulder. Drivers in mid-fisticuffs. As we passed I looked over and the fighters were so involved in their battle they forgot to take the terrain into account. Fell and rolled down a slightly steep hill together. It wasn't until we stopped for a break about an hour later that my dad laughs and says, "Oh, and what the fuck was that fight about anyway?" I had forgotten about it until then, and all I saw in my mind was those two bozos tumbling down a hillside and kicking up a dust cloud. Fucking New Mexico. I hope I can describe this to be as hilarious as it actually was. After a night at the bars, it was after 2 and I was waiting for my food order at Jack in the Box with all the other hungry drunk people. A girl next to me obviously can't wait for her food, so she takes out her iPhone, opens a packet of hot sauce, and squeezes it onto her iPhone like a plate and takes a huge lick. She had no idea what she was doing and one of her friends had to pull the iPhone out of her hand mid-lick. I still laugh uncontrollably when I think of the visual.